Howdy, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Truth Defender podcast. We are coming to you from the greatest country in the world, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State, Dallas, Texas. I'm your host, Paul Aguilar. We really appreciate you guys stopping in for another episode. If you guys are catching us on YouTube and you aren't already a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as well as turn on that bell icon and give us a big thumbs up as well. That'd really help us out. If you guys are on the go and you want to check us out, you can catch us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, as well as iHeartRadio at Truth Defender Podcast. We'll have all the links to our social media down below: Twitter, Getter, Instagram, Facebook, and Rumble. And also, if you guys have any questions or comments for myself or a guest or topic recommendations, you can shoot us an email over at thetruthDefenders1776@gmail.com. Today, we have back for a third time, I believe, artist, the biblical paranormal researcher, Mr. Jason McLean. How you doing, sir?
Sir, it's an honor and pleasure to be with you. Love it.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate your time, especially on a Friday. We just got the weekend started, so looking forward to it. But so the reason we're all back here again, I guess about a week ago, I put out, I think it was a post on Facebook or something, and you mentioned this is the very thing that happened in one of my books. So I was like, all right, we'll get you back in, and we'll have a long discussion about what's going on. Obviously, we all know that Russia invaded the Ukraine last week. I think it was on Thursday, the 24th, I think it was. Ever since then, there's been war, and they're slowly creeping into the Ukraine, taking over piece by piece. And I don't know, there's some people that say this could be the start of World War III, but a lot of people say that it's already started, depending on who you talk to. Now, from what we see, on the ground, they're, taking over cities and bombing residential areas, apartment buildings. They even just attacked one of the biggest nuclear reactors in Europe. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of crazy stuff going on right now. Now it's kind of like a long history between Russia and the Ukraine, for, I don't know, maybe centuries, like 1,000 years or so, that they've been kind of associated with each other, going back and forth. So it's kind of a weird kind of history, one that I don't fully understand. I didn't really know of until, I guess, last week when it all started. But it's kind of a rough deal.
Well, sort of the way to describe their relationship is actually found in the name of their capital city, right?
Right.
When I was growing up, and I think probably up until very recently, everyone called it Kiev, right?
Right.
But now it's Kyiv.
Yeah.
Well, the reason for the difference is it's like, why did we start calling it Kyiv all of a sudden? Well, because Kiev is Russian, Kyiv is Ukrainian.
Right.
So because they were part of the Soviet Empire for so long, we all treat it's like here in the West, we use the Russian name for it. Even just as a stop, how often, because particularly for those of us who are a little bit older, it's hard to call it just Ukraine, not the Ukraine. Because again, growing up, it was always the Ukraine. Well, the reason for that is because that's what the Russians called it. It is literally like the front line or the beginning. So from a Russian perspective, Ukraine is not a nation, it's the front border, right? The Ukrainians are relatives, but they're the borderlands to Europe,
right?
Because Russia has always considered itself an Eastern nation. But I mean, that right there, so it kind of sums up the whole thing. They're clearly related. Kyiv and Kiev are essentially the same word, just pronounced a little differently, right?
Right.
It's sort of like the difference between someone from New York and someone from Texas, right? Like, that's sort of the difference.
Right.
They're speaking basically the same language, but just with some, a few different words here and there, a few different, different pronunciations, different, very, very different, but it's not as different, like, say, someone from Canada versus someone from Mexico.
Right.
Right. So it is a strained relationship. And the thing is, like, again, you'll use Kyiv since it is Ukrainian. That is, into a broader point, it's always been the heart of even the Russian people and Russian Orthodoxy, right? The Russian Orthodox Church. Like, a lot of this stuff is coming out of Ukraine. I'm trying to think of a good equivalent for the United States, and I really can't, except to say, imagine if the United States were to fall apart, right?
Right.
But then like Virginia and some of the 13 original colonies became their own nation, and then the rest of the United States was one piece, or was broken up. And then you had a bunch of them, and then you had a few other smaller, states break off. Right. Like everyone would be okay with California leaving, but people would look at like those 13 but those 13 original states. Okay, we may not really want New York. It's always seemed to have been as much, more trouble than it's worth. But at the same time, we'd be like, well, hold on, no, that's the heart and soul of America, right? It's where we were born from. It's where all the philosophies came out of. We would want it back,
right?
But for them, again, the Ukrainians are different. They're a similar, related, but they are a different people group. So it does make this whole thing very, very messy. But again, to your point, it's just to say, this is sort of the situation they have, right? The Ukrainians are a unique people group. They are separate from the Russians, but they're very much related. And there's a good reason for the Russians to want them back. Now, clearly Putin's in the wrong. You don't, again, self-determination. The Ukrainians, if they decide that they want to be a separate nation, you should respect that. But again, I could absolutely see why Putin would be like, no, we want that. Plus, strategically, Ukraine is remarkably important to them from a strategic, position, as access to the Black Sea, the Ural Mount, is it the Ural Mountains, or there's a mountain range. Maybe it's not the Urals. I think it's the Carpathian Mountains also, right? Or on the other side of Ukraine. That's a big deal for them strategically as well. So lots, but it's a messy history.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, like I mentioned, I obviously knew what the Ukraine was, and for the longest time, but like until last week, nobody really knew like the history kind of behind, the Ukraine being a part of Russia and being a part of the USSR, and them actually claiming sovereignty in like 91 when that all happened, when everything came down. So, like kind of like, they say the reason why Putin's invading now is because the Ukraine wants to become a part of NATO, which, I mean, there's other NATO allied countries on the border of Russia, but maybe he's just using this as kind of like a pretext to get it back in there and say, we don't want you guys to be a part of NATO, so we're gonna have to go in and invade. So I mean, that's probably just being used as kind of as an excuse to kind of run back in there and see if they can finally get them back. Obviously the Ukraine's been a part of Russia for centuries, so they want it back in a big way, obviously. And it's kind of a weird dynamic. Right. Like, speak to people that say like they live in the Ukraine, but they have like family in Russia or vice versa. And it's always kind of the same thing. It's like we hate them, even though they're our family, but they're like in Russia. So it's like they're Russian and we don't want anything to do with them. So it's a big kind of, I don't know, like there's like a real hate between Russia and the Ukraine. It just so happens that the Ukraine, unfortunately, is a smaller country. So they just kind of get the short end of the stick.
Well, so there's two big points here, and again, I'm certainly not the first one to come up with this one, but a lot of people have pointed out, it's like, so all these people, like to your point, how many people even knew where Ukraine was until 2 weeks ago? Much less any kind of history between Ukraine and Russia. I'm a little bit older than you, so I remember the Cold War, right? I remember learning about the Holodomor, things like that. But to your point, it's like, how is it that we had all of these, epidemiology experts suddenly turn around and become, tacticians and experts on the Ukraine-Russia relationship? It's like, I'm like, hold on, I get it. I got my hands in some pies here, but you seem to have your hands in all kinds of pies. I don't see a lot of connection here. I'm also willing to stop and go, I don't know what the hell's going on, right? Because I think that's the bigger point. Everyone's got so many opinions on it. I'm like, hold up. You don't even begin to know what's happening. Everyone's like, well, you can watch it in real life. No, you can't. Half this stuff is made up. Half the report. I'm sorry, but the first 24 hours of any, and I mean any news report, is inherently wrong. It just will be wrong. And that is the first 24 hours of something that's happening here in America, right? And it's not a war zone. It's just, hey, just the details of any one event are going to be wrong for the first 24 hours.
Yep.
Every story, I don't care what story it is, it's always wrong. And you're telling me that in a war zone on the other side of the planet, we're getting accurate information in real time? And even if we could get accurate information in real time, are you telling me that our news media, and again, don't say, well, what about conservative? I don't care, conservative or liberal. Right. You tell me they're going to tell us the actual truth? Do you think they're going to give us the actual? Of course they're not, because they can't. It's all propaganda on both sides. And so yet now we have everyone talking about, well, why is it stalled? Why is it taking so long? Well, I think there's some legitimate people who have some legitimate opinions, but it's all speculation at best. I mean, that's what we have. So that's sort of my first point. My second point is as to the tragic history, like why do the Ukrainians hate the Russians? Because yes, there's a long-standing connection between the two, but it comes down really to the Holodomor. When Stalin took over, right, and they had Ukraine, there are a number of, it depends on who you talk to. Some will say as high as 20 million. Others will say it's closer to somewhere between 6 and 10. But somewhere in those numbers, let's use the smaller number of like 8. Okay. Somewhere between 6 and 8 million Ukrainians were starved to death deliberately by Stalin. The eastern part of the nations where they were sort of all this sort of started, right? Where they've had civil strife for the last few years. And that's where Putin originally moved in and said, hey, we're just going in to recognize their independence, right? Here's all the ethno-Russians who are here, right? The reason that happened was because during the Holodomor, they actually just murdered or shipped out millions of Ukrainians. And the Russians came in to run everything. So the reason there's more ethnic Russians in that part of Ukraine was because they killed them all. They killed all the Ukrainians who were there normal or who were there naturally. And again, you want to hear some of the worst stories you've ever heard outside of World War I, like trench warfare, World War I stuff.
Right.
Look into the Holodomor. There are stories of women of people talking about this house on this hill. Everyone knew to stay away from her because she had gone insane because she ate her own child. Because they were starving, she literally murdered her own child and ate her, again, I can't remember if it was a boy or girl, but ate him just to survive, and it drove her insane, and she became sort of rabid. I mean, stories like that were absolutely common. It was one of the worst things ever done. That is why Ukrainians absolutely hate the Russians. Now, is there intermarriage between the two today? Well, yeah, I mean, that happened 80 years ago. Right. It's actually probably closer to 100 years ago now. So, yeah, time has passed, but there's still going to be that hatred. I mean, you can't get rid of something, like that overnight. You just can't. Humans do some terrible, terrible things. But yes, the connection between Russia and Ukraine is it's long, it's storied, and it's very, very bloody. But at the same time, like I said, they're kind of like cousins, right?
Yep.
Because Kyiv has been the heart and soul of the Russian Orthodox Church. Always has been. So it's, and of course, you have what the USSR did. You have what the Soviet Empire did. And it caused a lot of pain for a lot of people. And of course, the Russians, today, everyone tries to say that, oh, he's trying to rebuild the Soviet Empire. The problem is he's not really a communist, Putin. No, what I think, let me phrase this. What I've heard other people talk about who know the situation far better than I do and have read his writings, as well as the writings of Alexander Dugin. Like, that's another person no one talks about, right? The philosophical approach that he's taking to all this is sort of a, hey, It's more like a recreation of the Russian Empire, not really the Soviet Empire, but the Russian Empire. He sees himself as sort of another Peter the Great from his, sort of his perspective. He wants to reunify the Russian Empire and build something. Again, this is where it's easy for us to call someone crazy when they're looking 50 years or 100 years out, right?
Right.
They're willing to take short-term pain for a long-term, what they see as a long-term benefit. And he is talking things like morality. He is talking about building a strong and robust nation that are of people who are, now again, is he wrong? Yes. Again, do I think that he has the goodness of his heart out of this? No. But at the same time, it's kind of easy to sort of look at the West and say, y'all can't figure out which bathrooms to use. Why in the world do we want what you have?
Right.
Right. He's saying, hey, I want to build people who are going to last 1,000 years. Right. I want a civilization that's not going to collapse and eat itself. They're already a third world nation. Everyone's like, oh, we'll topple you. We'll do all these sanctions. They were already a third world nation. You can't hurt them anymore. And it's not like you've actually hurt them. You haven't. They've been strengthening themselves to basically sort of disattach itself from the Western economies. And guess who's right there waiting for them? China. And you think this wasn't worked out years ago? This is all part of the plan. They want this to happen. They want to build a new empire. They've been doing this with the Middle East for decades now, right? Russia and China are not friends. They shouldn't be friends. And again, I don't want to speak out of hat, but it does look like, honestly, if we had been smarter about all this in the early 90s and the early 2000s, we wouldn't be in this situation. It looked like a lot of politicians just wanted to say, yep, it's easy to have the Russians as our enemy and drive our war machine based off of those threats, and to sort of keep them dangling, then to say, yeah, come on, let's join NATO. Let's help, let's build you up. Let's do these things. I'm not saying that they could have happened or could have even worked, because NATO requires certain things to be done, right? And I'm not certain that Russia could have pulled that off. I'm not even saying necessarily that Russia would have wanted to, but they did reach out to NATO early on and say, hey, why don't you let us join, right? The Soviet Empire's collapsed. We're trying to rebuild. Why don't you let us join the West, right? And it was entirely rebuffed by Clinton. and so it's like, okay. And he even said, look, I get that you may not want to be friends with us, but why do you want us as enemies?
Right.
And again, I'm not saying that we could have had peace with him. I don't know. This is not my level of expertise on that. All I know is it sure as the world looks like our leadership has not necessarily had our best interest at heart with any of this. And it does look like this was essentially, let me rephrase it this way. He has a built-in excuse to do what he's doing. Now, is his excuse legit? I don't think it is. But could you, particularly looking at the tactics on the ground where the Carpathian Mountains are, because you're right, there are other nations that are sort of on the border, but if you look at them tactically, they're not that important. They don't really pose a danger to Moscow. Ukraine, on the other hand, particularly if you want to start putting, you want to, if it becomes a NATO nation, that would be strategically very, very terrible for Russia. So there's a legitimate, again, a lot of people have made this equation. It's like, well, what if China put nuclear missiles in their armies in Mexico?
Yeah.
Now, again, doesn't justify what he's doing. Does it justify it? I wouldn't say so. But at the same time, I can't say that he wouldn't look at that as provocation, particularly when we said it would never happen, right? That was part of the whole deal with Ukraine. Hey, Ukraine, give up your nuclear weapons. We'll protect you. Russia, to make you okay with this, we'll just make certain that Ukraine's never a NATO nation. So you can be neutral. You don't have to worry about it. But then what happens in 2014, right? We have all that turmoil with Crimea. We have a coup, and there's some questions about it. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know what the CIA did. I don't know if The current administration is more, if it's more CIA. How do I say this? I don't know if the CIA is trying to has a big say with this government. I'm not saying anything like that. All I'm saying is, if I'm Russia and I know that the West and the NATO allies don't see me, will not have refused to see me as a friend or even an ally, then yeah, I would say that I think he's got a valid point to say, you want Ukraine to join NATO, that's a threat to me. So I need to act now. Now, all that being said, I do find it really suspicious that he's able to grab the parts of Georgia that he wants under Bush. He grabs Crimea under Obama, takes a break, and now he's moving on Ukraine under Biden. All of them have certain connections, right? They all have connections to these oligarchs. Again, gas, natural or oil, natural gas. There's that real heavy connection there with all of those families and all of those groups of people. And you're like, what? Something tells me that there's more going on here than I would like. Because everyone points to Hunter Biden and the Ukrainians, and I'm like, well, yeah, but he got millions of dollars from the wife of the mayor of Moscow, or whatever it was. It's like and again, here's the other factor people don't like to talk about. I say I don't really know much about Ukraine. I don't want to talk out of hat, and here I am. Because my interest is actually more prophetic than the political per se on this. But everyone's running around like, well, see, what did the oligarchs, what did the Ukrainian oligarchs get for Hunter Biden and all these other people who have family members in Ukraine, like Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, Mitt Romney, like they all have sons and nephews who are, these oil experts being paid by these Ukrainian oligarchs, right? And everyone's like, see, what did they get for buying off these American politicians? I guess you probably didn't figure this one out yet. Even if they're Ukrainian, the oligarchs don't care about Ukraine because they've all learned you get what you steal. These are all ex-KGB guys. You think this would be happening if the Ukrainian oil and natural gas oligarchs didn't want this to happen?
Right.
Do you think we'd be pussyfooting around if they didn't want this to happen? No, they wanted this to happen. That's why we're not like, Team America, F yeah, let's go bomb them. Like, that's why we're like, let's look at sanctions. Because I guarantee you, right? Like, I know that's, Fox News, everyone's like, we got to get in there. Like, they're trying to build the support for the war.
Right.
If those Ukrainian oligarchs didn't want this to happen, if they weren't in on this, do you think for a second the second it looked like Putin was going to move, they would have called up and been like, Joe, what the heck?
Yeah.
And we would have had B-2 bombers drop, laying waste to the Russian, and we would have come out and said, we are the world police. We cannot have this kind of unmitigated aggression from the Russians. Go America. Yay, patriotism. It's like, no. They wanted this to happen. That's why we're like, oh, we need to be so measured. We need to look at NATO. We got to figure out, let's maybe try some sanctions.
Right.
Let's sanction some very specific oligarchs. And by the way, we're going to have carve-outs on these sanctions so that the Italians can still sell their Gucci wares to those oligarchs. And let's certainly not cut off all of the oil and gas coming out of Russia into Europe, or that we're buying. It's like, okay, so so who exactly are you sanctioning? Well, we're just going to sanction the food going to the people.
It's weird because now you have corporations and such, and like the U.S. soccer or the Federation and all these things that they are banning Russian players from tennis and golf and basketball. Nobody gives a shit. That doesn't mean anything. Everybody's we're doing our part, and you see people on Facebook with Ukraine flags all over their thing and stuff. And it's I feel bad for the people. Obviously, these people have no say in what's going on. They're just there.
Oh, of course.
Their life destroyed and stuff. But but I mean, everybody forgets that the Ukraine was corrupt as hell, and Russia even more. And it's kind of a weird thing. It's like growing up, the biggest thing was like Russia's like this big and powerful country, and Putin's like this and that. Like we shouldn't mess with Russia and all this stuff. But nobody ever thought about like how poor they were. Like they don't have the kind of money that people think they do. You see stories online that like Russian troops are like abandoning their tanks and trucks because they have no gas, or like they're like, you know, and there's kind of, it's like a weird thing when I saw this. And, you know, like you mentioned earlier that everything was propaganda early on. There was like videos that were surfacing and they were saying like this was happening in the Ukraine, but then people would find videos that was actually posted like 4 years ago somewhere else of like planes flying over the city and like fighting here and there. It's just like, what, you know, what's going on? But like, I mean, we know what's going on, but this whole thing with like the pipeline now, like we're actually funding Russia to be in the Ukraine as we speak, because we're still buying oil from Russia as we speak, like millions of freaking barrels of oil. And then we're also funding the other side. Now, nobody can get out of my mind that this isn't another push to get us into another 20-year war. We screwed up in Afghanistan royally. We left billions of dollars in equipment, and tanks, and all kinds of stuff. And now we need something else to like, you know, kind of prop us up again. You know, I mean, I was in the military. Like, I get it. Like, you know, but like, there's just something else to this whole thing that we're trying to start like another war out there somewhere. And it's just, it smells fishy because this whole thing is just shitty on all ends. And the people that are paying for it are like the Ukrainians, right? But then now in Russia, talking about how like they're banning Russians from being like in the Olympics and all kinds of stuff. And then they're taking away, like they can't be on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, which is probably great for them, but like,
it's like, oh, so let me get this straight. It's like, they don't have Facebook, Twitter, or YouPorn. These are going to be the most healthy, well-adjusted people on the planet Earth in a few months, right? Exactly. Oh yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Well, all this sort of reminds me of I hate the movie because, it's a complicated relationship I have with Starship Troopers because I love the book. So it's like I watch the movie all the time because I do enjoy it, but the problem is it is such a radical departure from the book, and I love the book so much that I hate that I enjoy it as much as I do, right? Because it is not the same thing at all. I have some background information on that too, but that's entirely off point. But remember the scene when they're doing the commercials and there's this, and it's like some kid's birthday party or whatever, and they throw out all these Madagascar hissing cockroaches and all the kids are stepping on them, right? And they're like, more? These kids are doing their part, right?
Would you like to know more?
That's what we're seeing. Exactly. And the mother's like, oh, isn't it so wonderful? They're great. Like, these are earthbound Madagascar hissing cockroaches. This has nothing to do with the war effort, but that's the whole point, right? The entire point that Verhoeven was doing with the film was, and again, one of the other reasons I really hated what Verhoeven did, is but he had a valid point here, is he's pointing out propaganda, right?
Right.
He's pointing out, you know, how people are manipulated to do what they do. When the government comes out and says, you take all that Russian vodka off those shelves, no buying the Russian vodka. I'm like,
so dumb.
Okay, hold on. I've seen this before, right? Again, let's forget about Starship Troopers. I'm old enough to remember the last few wars we've been in. It's like, you know, I remember this stuff. I've seen this. I've seen all of this before. But again, I think it's that one scene amplifies what we're talking about here. It's designed to get people like, no, we got to go to war. It's almost like the Family Guy scene where Peter's in Congress and they're like, there's no reason to go to war in Afghanistan or Iraq. I forget which one it is. And they have Peter saying, yeah, but what you're forgetting, sir, is that anyone who doesn't want to go to war is gay. And everyone's like, oh, I'm not gay. It's like, let's go to war.
Yep.
That is literally the stage that we're in right now, where it's like, hey, maybe we want to think about this before we get engaged with a nuclear power. What, are you pro Putin? You love the Russians. I'm like, first of all, it's like you want the downfall of the West. 2 months ago, you were telling me that the West was a racist empire that needed to fall. And now I'm supposed to say, yes, let's please go pick a fight with a nuclear-powered entity on the other side of the world to defend the West? I need you to pick a freaking side. You people all loved the Russians 30 years ago. You said, we got to all become... You're still using the freaking communist flag right now. You burned down our cities last year and the year before last, protesting that we weren't communists.
Right.
And now we got to defend the West? What, I need everyone to stop for 2 seconds and pick a side. That's all I want. It's like, can we be honest about it? But no, we can't ever be honest about this stuff.
It's the same thing that happens with like the people that were against Second Amendment, and then here, like in the U.S., like, why do you need a gun and this and that, blah blah. But then when they see the Ukrainian government handing out rifles to all their citizens, it's just like, yeah, like we got to go in there and freaking kill them all and this and that. And it's like, okay, but you don't want me to have a gun? It's like, I mean, I remember talking to somebody, and I was telling them, like, it's been a while since I'd seen any kind of posts online from any kind of like feminist group or like these groups about like equality and stuff. And I remember posting something about like, I haven't seen that like in a long time. Like, all you feminists better keep up that same energy when they bring back the draft or stuff like that. Like, there's gonna be equality. Like, I want to see you guys out there. I haven't seen anything lately. Like, none of that weird stuff anymore.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite TikTok, I think, is trend has become women being like, I'm independent. I don't need no man. And then they get a letter and they open it and they're like, I do the cooking. I do the cleaning. I think my favorite version was some woman says, feminist. She sits down, and just as she opens the letter, Creedence Clearwater starts playing. And she closes it real quick. And then she opens it, and it's Born on the 4th of July. It starts playing by Creedence Clearwater, and she goes, maybe I'm not a feminist anymore. Let me follow up and say, I need to make an apology to all of my leftist friends. All of our good American friends who are on the left, who have, for the last, since I've been alive, been telling me that I don't need an AR-15. I actually have an SKS. But my point is, you're right. I don't need an AR-15 with a 30-round clip. You're absolutely right. I don't need that. What Ukraine has shown me, and what were the error of my thinking, and I completely agree with all. I think we can all come together now. Those on the left, those on the right. Let's all come together and agree. We don't need AR-15s with 30-round clips or magazines. I'm sorry. What we need is select fire with 50-round drum magazines. That's what we need. And the United States government should provide them. We have plenty of surplus. We've got plenty of surplus M16s lying around because we're getting ready to switch over to the new things anyway. We have plenty of those. We were able to leave $84 billion worth of military equipment in Afghanistan. I think we can come up with an extra 20 for rifles, 50-round canister magazines, and 1,000 rounds of ammunition for every one who. That's what we need as American citizens. Government, jump right on it. Leftists, thank you for agreeing with us. Ukraine has shown you the truth. This is what we need. Let's get on this, Congress. Where's the gun in every? Let's put a cap in every ass. That's what I'm saying. Let's learn from this. Let's not have to do this. At the last minute when those Chinese tanks are rolling in. Let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's get those 1,000 rounds.
Yeah. It's
so again, that's my apology. That is my apology to the left, to all of my leftist friends, for every time they said, you don't need an AR-15 with. I'm like, well, I've got an SKS, and yes, I do have a 30-round clip. But you're right. I was wrong for the last 20 years of my life, my leftist friends. I completely agree with you. I do not need an AR-15 with a 30-round clip.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, I'm staring at several not automatic, but semi-automatic weapons right here next to me, but that one was kind of like the weirdest one that that everybody here was saying like we didn't need or have been saying for the longest time that we don't need any kind of weapon whatsoever. But as soon as that kind of news story came out all over Twitter and Facebook, I saw everybody that they were like anti-Second Amendment in the past. They were like, yeah, like hand out weapons and like what can we do to help and all this stuff. And I was just like, what are we talking about here? Like it's the exact same thing, and that's the reason why we have weapons here in the U.S. Now, obviously, if we didn't have them, it'd be a little harder for. It'd still be hard for other countries to come and invade here because like our military and such. But the fact that nobody's ever tried to at all is because we all have weapons in our houses, and that's the only thing that keeps
absolutely
our governments in check. And they always say like, oh, you're gonna fight the government with your rifle and they have a tank and this and that. It's just like, yeah, did you hear Vietnam? Like that shit happens.
Afghanistan.
Now we have the Ukraine because they obviously don't have any weapons whatsoever, and they're handing out like freaking secondhand rifles, or like the person dies, you can pick up his rifle and fight. Like, it's like the spirit of being in a war. Like, yeah, that other army can have billions of dollars and the best equipment and stuff, but if these people like really want to fight and they're fighting to keep what's theirs, like it's not going to be as easy. Like it's that's why we have that here.
Well, okay, so the hypocrisy I'm going to come back to in a second, but just on the logistics of warfare, because I have seen I've seen a good World War II movie or once or twice, so clearly I'm qualified to speak on the matters of war. The one thing a lot of people, when they say, well, what are you going to do when those tanks go rolling down? Yes, it's actually quite easy to take care of tanks. The problem that most people do not understand when it comes to tank warfare or any of these sophisticated systems is they are heavily dependent on maintenance. It's like, yes, you may have a $2 billion fighter or, an attack jet, but guess what? If you cut off the fuel supplies, if you take out the mechanics, that thing's not going to fly for very long. Those tanks, you have to work on them all the time. You take out the maintenance crew. Again, we have Russian tanks, and of course, it's not just the tanks. You have the amphibious landing craft, but they're running out of gas. I do have my doubts as to how much of that is accurate, because let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, I imagine no matter how if you have an invasion force, somebody's going to run out of gas sometimes, right? Nothing's going to go off without a hitch. We ran out of gas when we invaded Iraq. Now, again, but that to the side, yeah. The point is, if you can cut off those supplies, yeah, you can absolutely take out a superior force. Whether it's Chinese, whether it's the United States government turning on its people, whether it's Russia, whether it's some new fangled, all of the Taliban with all the $84 billion worth of weapons we left them, they come over here. All you got to do is cut off that supply line and you're done. And that's much easier to do on area and land that you know about. You understand it. It's the whole point of guerrilla warfare is you're not going to go toe to toe with a superior force. What you do is you do a quick hit, you ambush, and then you get out. And if you can cut those supply lines, you can take out the mechanics and the engineers. That tank is a giant paperweight.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have a few of those in the right roads, they're going to have to spend all their time trying to get them out of the way, which allows you to take out more supply lines. Like it's okay. I swear this seems completely off base, but this actually does have a point. And then we can talk about the hypocrisy. And then we can actually talk about the point that I have some expertise in. When was the last time you ever saw any movie set in the Middle Ages where people were using javelins?
That's true.
Or spears.
Not a whole lot.
Or halberds. Or slings. No, you haven't. And here's the worst. The thing is, the javelins they would have used in the Middle Ages looked like giant arrows because they had fletchings on the end, so they'd be more accurate. And when they're storming the castle, you see them pouring. You see people doing boiling oil, but you don't ever see people with these giant javelins that look like javelins that look like arrows. They're just like, whee! They just drop them off the edge, right? Well, but that's the whole point. Why don't we see that? Because all of our movies, and the way we picture this stuff is always inaccurate. It's made to be the most flamboyant. It's made to be the most, it's, so we all direct this way. So the problem is, most people, unless you spent your entire life studying warfare, you don't really know how things are going to go. Most people don't even understand for every one soldier, I think it's 8 to 10 people have to support him between food, logistics. It was Eisenhower who said, amateurs study tactics, professionals study logistics. Any military expert that you talk to, whether it's historical, modern, they will tell you the logistics of feeding, arming, maintaining that the troops are the number one thing you can do. The people who don't do that properly, like, again, anecdotally, we're kind of seeing in the Russia-Ukraine invasion. Again, it's showing that that's a mistake that they're making, and that will cost them dearly. So when people talk about, like, well, what are you going to do with your what are you going to do with your 40-year-old SK, Chinese-made SKS? Well, all I need to do is take out a couple tires. All I got to do is make certain that a tanker truck full of fuel doesn't make its destination. That's all I got to do. Yeah. Right? Cutting off, like, the logistics of warfare is far more important than really even the tactics that they use. Because if you've got your soldiers fed, if you can care for them medically, if you can supply them with relief efforts, you can refuel them, you can resupply them, you're going to win that war. You're going to win that battle. But again, most people, particularly those on the left, don't really understand these things. So they say stupid things like, what are you going to do when those tanks are rolling down the street? Because they don't understand what they're talking about. This is also why the people who like to scream about, we have to save the environment, global warming. I'm sorry, it's climate change now, because God forbid you actually say what's supposed to be bad is happening, right? Because it's not actually warming. It's like, but that aside, they're like, well, why are you focusing on windmills and solar power, which is really, really inefficient? Why don't we focus on nuclear power? No, we can't talk about nuclear power. They don't understand what they're talking about. They want to be seen as knowledgeable. They want to be seen as caring. So they don't actually look into any of this. They don't understand what they're talking about, which goes back to my original point, their hypocrisy. The reason it's not actually hypocrisy. That's the problem. They literally don't care. They don't care if you have a gun or not. They don't care about the environment, really. What they want is power. They believe that there's a utopian future that if everyone just does what they're told, we can live in peace and harmony. And if we just give everybody all the stuff, we'll live in peace and harmony. They think that humanity can be perfectible. They don't actually believe any of this.
Right.
And the problem is we on the right, we fight them as if they're arguing in good faith. They never have argued in good faith. That's why they can scream about racism and then say all white people are evil. That's why they can say you have to pay for the sins of ancestors you may or may not have had because you're white. But at the same time, well, all the white people who died to free slaves and fought for civil rights, that doesn't apply to you.
Right. Yeah.
It's because they don't actually care. They don't care about whether or not you have a gun or not. They want you to submit. It's all of these things are lies. They're all smoke screens for what they really want, which is power politically over people. Again, it's the same reason you can be, if you're a black conservative, suddenly you're not black. Now, you could sell drugs to kids. You can gangbang and shoot up black neighborhoods. You can burn down black neighborhoods all day. You're a true black person, right? Because we know this because when Clarence Thomas was up, they said no. Snoop Dogg's or it wasn't that he was up for it. It was later. People were talking about Clarence Thomas, and I think it was Jesse Jackson. I may be wrong on that. They came out and said, Clarence Thomas isn't black. Snoop Dogg would be a real black man. I'm sorry. You mean the guy who was selling drugs to kids like 15 years before this comment? No, Eric July, right? He's here in Dallas, libertarian. Love his group. He's I don't even know what you call it. It's metalcore or something, but it's a libertarian metalcore group. Actually, I like Stathius. Good guy. He has this great point where he's like, when he was a kid running around, causing trouble, getting into fights, causing trouble in the neighborhood, no one ever said he wasn't black. The second he stopped, but the second he turned his attention and started thinking for himself, suddenly he's not black. So why is it you can burn down black neighborhoods, you can kill black kids, you can sell drugs and destroy black families, that's blackness. Oh wait, you wanna actually bring prosperity to the black neighborhoods? You want intact black families so the kids don't grow up and they can actually go to good schools? Oh well, you're white now.
Yeah, it's always been one of those
crazy
things I never understood. It's the same thing for like, obviously being a part of like the Hispanic community. Like if I go back home to where I'm originally from in El Paso, the minute you mention anything that goes against, just what we've always been associated with and like growing up, and it's like bro, like you're white now, or like what? It's just like, wait, what the fuck? Like, dude, it's like I moved out of the neighborhood and like I went to school and I got out of there for a reason, bro. Like, where we came from and like growing up, the kind of shit that we get into and like people dying and all, like that's like cool to you. Like you just want your family to be raised in that kind of shit all the time. But because we have like the spirit and the drive to want to get out of there, like now all of a sudden I'm not down anymore. Like I'm not Mexican anymore. Like I'm not part of the crew. Like it's just like, what are you guys even talking about? Because I want my son to grow up in a nice neighborhood and like have all the shit that I didn't have when I was growing up. Like it's like this weird kind of, it's not weird, it's stupid. And it's just like, why would you want your people to be stuck in that kind of lifestyle? Like pick your people up. Let's fucking go to school. Let's get good grades. Let's get great jobs. We can all hang out. Like what's the appeal of living in a shitty ass apartment in like a shitty neighborhood? You never have no money to like go out and party or go to the movies or like go out to eat and have a good time. Instead, you're just always fucking poor, whatever. Like, let's get money. Let's have a good job and let's do some awesome things. Let's go on vacations and stuff. But nah, it's just like, nah, bro, you're not part of it anymore. It's just like, all right, well, I'll go be white over here then. Shit.
Well, so actually, I think this is a good sort of pathway into where my real expertise would lie. If you take out the supernatural world, nothing ever makes sense, right? And this is the thing that people need to understand. And particularly if you're a Christian, most American Christians do not grow up with a supernatural worldview. It is all flat. It's just, well, yeah, I mean, God exists and angels exist, but demons exist, but they're all kind of out there, and it's just us doing things, right?
Right.
There is a supernatural world, and it interacts with us. The problem is, even to say it's supernatural, I think separates it from the normality of what we actually exist in. Why did all these people just go absolutely nuts when Trump won? Like this is something that a lot of people don't get with me. I'm like, look, so did you support Trump? I'm like, from a political standpoint, I supported what he went for. I don't think he's a good person. But I also, they're like, but you said you think that Trump was, put there, divinely by God. Well, I think everyone's put there divinely by God, whether you like it or not. Obama was, Bush was, Biden is. Like, God is supreme and ordains all things, whether you like it or not. He's involved. Now, the question is, what is he doing? That's the question we need to ask. The reason people start just screaming at the sky was because he was interrupting something. God put him there to interrupt a plan. We're seeing the plan right now. Guys, the spirit of the Antichrist has been in the world for a very long time. This is not new. This is the way it's been going. Trump interrupted something, and that's what they freaked out about. He was a wrench in all these. He was a monkey wrench in gears that the Antichrist and all these spirits over the world had in motion. Most people, again, I highly recommend Heiser's work. Michael Heiser. If y'all don't know him, you need to go research him right now. Read his books. Deuteronomy 32, but let me focus on this real quick. Deuteronomy 32 has been mistranslated in the modern Bible because it's based on the Masoretic text. What we've seen both in Septuagint and other sections coming out of the Dead Sea Scrolls is that Deuteronomy 32, where it describes how essentially after the Tower of Babel, that God divides up humanity, right, into nations and tongues. Right. The Masoretic text, so most Bibles will read according to the sons of Israel, right? Okay. Well, that doesn't make sense because Israel didn't exist yet. The better translation is according to the sons of God. It's the whole divine council idea that we see all throughout the Old Testament and informs very highly Paul's theology in the New Testament. Like, why does Paul talk about these principalities and thrones in higher places? That's our real target. Those are our real enemy. It's not the people. It's not the governors and the mayors and stuff. It's the supernatural beings above them. That's our problem. Where does Paul get that from? Well, it comes from his understanding of Deuteronomy 32, the divine council. That when God divorces humanity, right, at the Tower of Babel, he sets up these other spirits over humanity. Those are the gods that they were worshiping. Right. They were real, but they were supposed to mind and watch over humanity. That was their job, but they fell. They became corrupt. That's why in the Psalms, it says, but you call it your sons of God, but you will die like the princes of men. That's the Psalm that Jesus quotes to the Pharisees. Right? When he says, I'm a son of God. He's quoting that Psalm. But he's pointing to, he's like, no, you know that there are other sons of God. I'm one of them. But I'm the Son of God. I'm the one that's going to kill them. I'm the one who's going to replace them. This is why Jesus inherits the nations. Right. It's because he's throwing down, he's going to destroy, he's going to kill these other spirits upon his return. He inherits the nations because of their destruction. That's why when Paul is writing the New Testament, he's like, look, we're not actually fighting these people. The reason these idiots, these idiot SJWs with the purple hair, and they can't figure out what bathroom to go in, are, when Trump was elected, they're throwing themselves on the floor and screaming at the sky, no! Like, the reason this is all happening is because there's demons that are over them, that's what they're expressing. It is the demonic entities that they are bound to, that they are controlled by, that is upset. That's why everyone seemed to lose their minds. It's because they aren't in their right minds, because they aren't freed. Only Christians are free to actually have free will. Until then, you're still bound by the sins that you're in, and you're bound to those demonic spirits. You're bound to those fallen nation spirits. If you're not and I would argue the reason things have gotten so bad in America is because as a church, we stopped doing that. We stopped arguing over these spirits. We stopped fighting against them. Guys, I assure you, God is not the God of our nation. He never has been. What did happen, though, was that the men and women who were Christians, who were willing to fight for the kingdom, they got into power. And so those spirits over the nation couldn't affect them. Not really, not directly. They were able to hold the line because we are the nation in the kingdom of God, not the United States. Texas is not more blessed by God because God's like, oh, I like Texas better.
I don't know, man. It's good.
It is.
It's a great spot.
Well, look. Texas is okay. Look, I'm a fifth generation Texan. I have no intention of ever leaving Texas under any circumstances. That having been said, and again, I love Texas. I know every inch of Texas. It is the most geographically diverse place in the world. There is a reason nobody could control Texas. Texas is a freaking hellhole. Naturally. The reason it's as wonderful and beautiful as it is because we fixed it. We came in with our minds, our ingenuity, and we made it a better place. Because that's what God wants us to do. Our first command we still have is to go and subdue the earth. It is to have dominion over the earth. It is to bring the order of God to the world. That is our first and only charge. Well, that's our first charge as humans, as Homo sapien. That's our charge. Everything else you get as a Christian. Our country was good. Our country was prosperous when we as Christians fought. When we stood up for what was right. We demanded the right happen. This is why slavery ended. This is why Jim Crow eventually ended. It's not that there isn't evil when there's a Christian around, it's that there's a Christian around to fight it. The reason it's gotten so bad was because Christians stopped fighting a long time ago. All right, I'm going to start preaching. We would rather be wearing $22,000 suits, get up on stage at CPAC and have the entire world, again, conservative, liberalism, we want the world to say, look at how respectable that man is. That man's a preacher. He's a man of God. Look at how wonderful he is. Let's invite him to speak at a college graduation. Let's have him go speak at our high school dedication. Let's have him, look, he's a respectable man in the community. That's what we want. Well, guess what? The world will never, ever, ever respect you if you're teaching the truth of God. If you are speaking against sin, if you are teaching what Jesus taught, you will never be respected by the world. It's impossible. Jesus told us we couldn't be. He's like, no, they're going to be against you. Yep. The only reason this country has fallen the way it has so far, so quickly, is because this is not a denomination thing. This is a Christian church thing. Our country is the way it is because your pastors, and by the way, y'all in the pews aren't doing your job. We got 60 years ago, LBJ bought every church with a 501c3. The 501c3 is a contract with the government. That's what allows you to write off your taxes when you give to the church. If you speak about politics and a few other things, the government says, you're not a church anymore. You don't get to be tax deductible. That's why the change. They got bought out. They're like, oh, well, okay. I guess that's what we're going to do now. Well, guess what? Anyone who can tell you what not to say is your master, straight up. If they can tell you what you can and cannot say, they are your master. If they are your master, then Jesus cannot be your head. How in the world are you going to have a church that has revival, that has Jesus as the head of that church, if the government can tell you what to say? You can't. The spiritual, the legal, and the political are all intertwined.
Right.
You can't separate them. Every major church right now has a contract with the government. They can tell them what to say and what not to say. And I'm sorry, but if you're a pastor who's like, well, I won't let them tell me what I can and cannot say, great, you're an oath breaker. God takes that seriously too.
Yeah.
Great, you're going to lie.
It's always been like something that really gets to me. And obviously, you know how you said that no one would respect us, for kind of preaching the word and just spreading that awareness about God and stuff like that. So it's always gotten on my nerve how whenever somebody is identified as being like a Christian or someone who worships God or things like that they're always like that weird person. Like everybody's always like, oh, there's that weird guy that's always talking about God or something.
Yeah.
When did that? I mean, when did that ever like switch like to where that was the outlier? Like that always gets to me. Like always, whenever you speak, whoever it is, whenever you hear somebody talking about God or whatever, and we'll use Kanye West as an example. As soon as he started talking about God or like that, he made that album. Like they wanted to put him in a freaking crazy house, and they wanted to put him on medication because they thought he was going crazy. And like when that gets to me like so much, and it's unfortunate, but it's not like it's not planned out that way. It's that's obviously happening for a reason, but that always got to me. I just don't like it at all.
Well, first of all, kind of U.S. probably does have a problem or two. But that being said, let me tell you, let me tell you something that's a little more. It is both heart-wrenching and true. It's always been that way. The thing is, there were two things that happened. It was more respectable not to make fun of Christians directly.
Nobody would ever say
that was sort of the thing.
Muhammad,
but the other thing is, oh no, because you'll get blown up. You'll get decapitated. But secondly, it's also because a lot of Christians, honestly, they kept their Christianity in the church. William Wilberforce. You know what the main claim made against him was? And for those of you who don't know who William Wilberforce was, he was the abolitionist who helped to end the British slave trade. There's actually there's an interesting movie that was made about him like 10, 15 years ago. I think it's Lone Gruffle. Anyway, the guy who played Mr. Fantastic in the first two films, he plays William Wilberforce. It's a really well done movie. But one of the main charges made against William Wilberforce was that he had been possessed by the spirit of some crazy preacher. My friend, it has always been this way. To the ancient Israelites, the prophets, when they came to speaking the truth of God, they were crazy. When Jesus came, they considered him crazy. Paul, they considered him crazy. William Tyndale was a heretic and a crazy man. Martin Luther was a heretic and a crazy man. William Wilberforce was a heretic and a crazy man. This has always been the case. The thing is, we had this short period in history, which is the history we were born into, right? Where Christianity was at least superficially respected. Right. It was polite not to bash them. There was at least a tiny piece of respect. And now we've just gone back to the way it actually normally is. Where true Christianity is opposed. Okay, and for a guy who spends his time helping people with demons and shadow people and creatures with backwards legs tormenting their children, the most surreal sentence I've said in a long time was this. Over the last week or so, John Cooper of Skillet, right, lead singer of Skillet, and Alyssa Childers, one of the singers from Zoe Girl. If you're a '90s Christian kid, you'll understand those references. And if you listen to metal now, you understand Skillet. They came under fire for opposing progressive Christianity by Phil Vischer, the guy who helped create Veggie Tales. He's got a podcast, and he came out against them opposing progressive Christianity. I'm like, how in the world is Larry the Cucumber fighting against Orthodox Christianity? Like, this is the world we live in now. But here's the thing. It's always been this way. Jesus said he would separate the wheat and the tares. That's what we're seeing. Why has critical race theory just completely consumed the church? Why has progressive Christianity taken over the church? Why are there witches, active witches, publicly worshiping witches, using tarot cards as in churches now? Because we're exposing the wheat and the tare, right? You can't tell a wheat from a tare until they're mature. Well, that means when the time is right, when it comes time to harvest, that's when you that's when you see who they are. That's wheat and that's a tare.
Right.
The closer we get to the end, the closer we get to the return of Christ, the more we're going to see who's who and what's what. We're going to see who the Christians are. We're going to see who the pretenders always have been. That's the age that we're in. And which does bring me back to Ukraine and Russia. What is going on there? Why does this war matter? Like I said, I'm not a military expert. I'm not an expert on Russia or Putin. I can't tell you what his mindset is. I can't tell you if he's crazy or not. I think it's foolish to think that he is. But I don't have better information coming out of Ukraine than anybody else does. So why am I here? What is the importance of, why am I talking about Ukraine and Russia? Aside from the fact I do actually like military history. Push that to the side. Here's the importance. Daniel 7. There are 4 beasts mentioned. One's a lion with eagle's wings that gets removed. One is a bear that has 3 ribs in its mouth. One is a 4-headed leopard with 4 wings. One is a mystery creature that with iron teeth and iron claws, and he can't describe it. I have on my channel, on my YouTube channel, a full teaching on sort of revealing these things. But let me sum it up. The bear that Daniel saw is Putin's Russia. This is Russia becoming the bear that Daniel saw. The lion was the United Kingdom, and it is fully formed now. It is what Daniel saw. Because the lion has always been the symbol of England. The eagle is our symbol. We were removed on July 4th, 1776. Daniel, chapter 7, verse 4, describes this lion having the eagle's wings removed. It stands up on its hind leg and is given the mind of the man. Well, let's look at if you look at the flag and the coat of arms. Again, not only is the lion the symbol of the official symbol of England, the way that the eagle is for us, on most of the heraldic images, that lion is standing on its hind legs. And after we were separated from it, that's when they created the parliamentary system. It's when they got the prime minister. And it became a democracy. It was given the mind of a man. Russia has always been called the bear, the Russian bear. I'm old enough to remember Reagan running this commercial for his re-election where there's this beast, this bear, this giant grizzly bear just hunting through the forest, menacingly looking around. And the whole point of the commercial is you got to re-elect Reagan because that's the Russian bear and he's coming to kill you and your kids. Right. Russia has always been the bear. But look up Vladimir Putin's All Russia Party. Its official symbol is the bear. Now, here's why I say it has to be Putin's Russia. Not just the fact that his political party, which is the party that runs Russia right now, and probably will moving forward, is the bear. It's not just that. The bear of Daniel has 3 ribs in its mouth. 3 ribs. One of them, so in the importance of the ribs, let me talk about that for just a second. The bear is up on its side. The imagery is that the ribs in its mouth, and it specifies in between its teeth, meaning it's crunching down on these ribs, come out of its own side. This bear has ripped these ribs have been ripped out and is crunching down on them. We have, for certain, parts of Georgia. Putin didn't take all of Georgia, but he doesn't have to.
Right.
Georgia is a former Soviet state. It was part of the Soviet Empire. Once it collapsed, it became its own nation. He went in militarily, gained sections of Georgia. He took Crimea militarily. Now Ukraine. In my book that I wrote many, many years ago, I mentioned that Ukraine is probably going to end up being the 3rd rib. Now, I don't know that for a fact, so let me be very, very specific. I don't know that Crimea is the 2nd rib and Ukraine is the 3rd rib, or if Ukraine and Crimea are the 2nd rib, right? So there could be another rib coming. But the point is, this is the bear of Russia becoming the bear of Daniel 7. Now, why does it matter if Ukraine is the 2nd or the 3rd rib? Here's why it matters. After at the end of this prophecy, where it's describing the bear and telling us that this is going to become Putin's Russia, it is told to arise and devour much flesh. If Ukraine is the 3rd rib, then I think we are looking at a 3rd World War. Because what does the bear do? It arises to devour much flesh. Now, if Ukraine is only the 2nd rib and Crimea is just considered to be a part of Ukraine, right? If Crimea and Ukraine combine to make the 2nd rib, then we won't have all-out war yet. we'll have another sort of invasion like this, then we'll have another war. So I can't say which one it is for certain. I try not to overstep my bounds. People ask me, well, what about China? I'm sorry. To date, and I don't see a single prophecy that has China in it. There are some hints I think may be telling, but I can't say for certain. It's not my job. I'm not trying to overstep. I like what I can look at and objectively measure, which is hard with prophecy. But that's why I believe in sticking to the text. You've got to look at the text.
Yeah, I don't think China is too eager to destroy.
My fear is that Ukraine is the third rib.
Yeah, I don't think China's too eager to be destroying other countries and such. They just want to be in control of everything. So, it's not in their best interest to be invading other countries and starting all out war. But, so I wanted to kind of
speak to not the way Putin would. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, and so I wanted to kind of get to that point. So I'll read Matthew 24, verse 6 through 13, which obviously it says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Yep. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to the persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." Now, I mean, obviously, when everybody talks about it, they think Russia and this whole thing's kind of World War III, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't think it is yet, but I mean, this kind of thing's been kind of prophesized for like years and years and years. Are we like actually at that doorstep right now, or is it still far out?
Well, the problem is everyone treats World War III like it's Armageddon, and it's not, right? In fact, very specifically, I would argue that not to get too far off topic, but that the beginning of the sort of the beginning trials that Jesus speaks about in Matthew 24, I would argue you can actually literally pinpoint it to 9/11, 2001. I think that was the beginning of the birth pains. I've got a long reason. It's a very long reason to explain why. But again, that's neither here nor there. The thing is, and this is something we have to look at Revelation and Daniel as the same book. This is something a lot of theologians miss. Daniel 12. Again, this is in the video, but I'll sum it up. Daniel 12. He looks out. He's given this vision of the mighty angel, right? But he also sees two other people in linen, or two other people standing in the corner. Let me jump ahead. What we're seeing is Revelations 10 and 11, where John confronts the mighty angel and is given the scroll. Daniel was watching John talk to Michael when he's given the scroll to prophesy. The reason this is important is when I mentioned that the third, which one, whether Ukraine is the third rib or not, the reason that's important is it arises to devour much flesh. Okay? Maybe it's World War III, maybe it's not. I don't know. But there is a trumpet coming. And 1/3 of humanity dies in this trumpet. You mind telling me how you wipe out 2 billion people in what looks like some kind of war? Yeah. And it talks about an army with 200 million men, right? Okay, that's interesting. Except the only army that could field that many people would be China. So, again, is World War III Armageddon? I don't believe it is. Could it wipe out 2 billion people? Yeah, I think it could. Yeah. And because the Bible says something like that is going to happen. So, but again, it's like, so do we freak out? No, you shouldn't be freaking out if you're a Christian. If you're non-Christian, you should freak all the way out. And then you should get with Jesus Like right now. Like if you're not a Christian, freak out. I'm telling you, 2 billion people are going to die, and probably the next, at some point over the next 10 or 20 years, 2 billion people are going to die. That's a lot of people. I don't know that I'm going to walk around and be like, that's not going to be me. I mean, yeah, you could probably get that number if Asia was wiped out.
Right.
But I'm not going to count that that's where the body count stops. You don't know. Again, one of the questions that's always asked, why is it American prophecy? I don't know. Maybe because we're not all that important. There's an easy way to describe that. We're just not important. We're not actually involved. Or it could be we're a radioactive wasteland. I mean, either works. So if you're not a Christian, you need to freak all the way out and then run to the nearest Bible, and you need to get right with Jesus right now. Find the nearest Christian who isn't caught up in all this stupidity, and he's like, how do I become a Christian? I need to become a Christian right now. Because I assure you, whether it's 10 years from now in nuclear fire, or a heart attack tomorrow, or a car wreck 20 minutes from now, it is Armageddon for somebody right now. Every day is somebody's Armageddon. You need to get right with Jesus now. I'm already right with Jesus. I don't care how this is going to play out. I know I don't miss the rapture, whether I'm alive or dead. Right. I'm also pre-wrath, but that's a different kettle of fish. But everyone's like, well, what about the rapture? I don't care when the rapture occurs. Every Christian gets to go in the rapture. It doesn't matter if it's pre, mid, or pre-wrath, or post-trib, pre-wrath, kind of the same thing. It doesn't matter. You're going anyway. Great. It's like, well, what happens if you get martyred? Oh, well, okay, so I'm dead. I just get to come back. I get to respawn with Jesus. What's the problem here? Right? If I'm not claimed, then I need to fight and I need to stand for as long as I can until he comes. Right. I don't have a problem here. My job is not trying to save the world. My job is to save those that Jesus has sent me to. It's to speak the truth. Anything else is crap. So again, I look at Russia and Ukraine. I'm seeing the beast or the bear from Daniel 7. I'm seeing the potential for maybe World War III. Okay, doesn't bother me. That's what's supposed to happen. That's going to happen. I can't stop that from happening. Right. What I and everyone who's watching this can do, if you're a Christian, is we can find somebody who's not a Christian and say, you need to get right with Jesus. Tell them why. Tell them how. And if you're watching this and you're not a Christian, I highly recommend you get right with Jesus right now. Because it doesn't matter when you die. We're all going to die. And that means you're going to meet Jesus one way, whether you like it or not. Now, you can think I'm crazy, that's fine. But I'll say this. When we're all standing there and Jesus looks over to you and says, hey, remember, and you're like, but I didn't know you were real. It's like, well, didn't you listen to Paul and that crazy fat white guy on that podcast one time? And he told you to get right with me? Yeah? Well, you should have listened to him, shouldn't you? Just saying.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel 7's coming true, whether you like it or not. And that's your evidence right there. Like, again, big question. Why do I talk about cryptozoology? Why do I talk about prophecy? At the end of the day, they are the living examples of the fact that the Bible is true. If the Bible is true, then the truth claims made in the Bible are also true. Like, if you want to fight over whether or not it was a literal 6 days or if that's metaphorical, I don't care. I have my thoughts. I will teach on that. That's fine. I've got my opinions. But the thing you need to figure out is whether or not Jesus is the Christ. If he's the Messiah. That's the only question that matters. If Daniel 7's coming true, if there are living dinosaurs and stuff running around, which tells me that the flood is true, the flood narrative is true, then all the other teachings are true. That means Jesus is true. That means his resurrection is true. That means eternity is true. Folks, Daniel 7 is coming to pass as it was written literally 2,500 years ago. The time is right to get right with Jesus, and I mean fast.
Yeah, it's coming pretty quick. I mean, regardless of what happens Russia and everything. It's of course it's scary, and it's there can be like escalations, and there can be all kinds of crazy crap going on. But I mean, handle your orders, handle your affairs within house right now. Just just to be on the safe side, because you don't want to be stranded out in the wind. When everybody was already ready to go, and you're still stuck out there by yourself. So it's going to be interesting times, but it's definitely going to see. We'll have to see what's going to happen. Hopefully, we make it out of 2022, because it seems like we just jumped out of one shit show, which was COVID, into another one, and then now we got a freaking war going on, and everybody's freaked out. But I don't know.
Well, here's again. I go back to, it doesn't matter if this is World War III yet or not. Like I said, I don't know if Ukraine is the second or third rib, because like 2 years ago, I was driving 2 or 3 years ago now. I was just driving on the road, minding my own business. I was obeying every law. The car behind me, I'm doing 70 miles an hour. Car behind me drives a little off the road, loses control, spins, hits me, turns me 180 degrees around. I flip over and I roll off the road. There's that split moment where I'm like, well, this is how I die. Because I got no control over this. There's nothing I can do about this. I'm dead. Yeah. My father was a little ill. He was a little tired. He had some pains. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. For like about a month, he goes into the hospital. And within 2 days, we figure out that we find out he has cancer, and then he was dead 2 weeks later. Yep. Not even 2 weeks later. Again, whether this is World War III or not, every day is somebody's Armageddon. Now, on a slightly happier note, I don't know that this is necessarily a happier note. Just to the point. Yeah, it's the weekend. Yay! We're all gonna die. At least, hey, we're all gonna die sometime. I mean, again, you should be prepared for that. Again, I'm just saying, there's some things you can't do retroactively. All right? I'm just saying, get right with Jesus now, because whether it's nuclear fire 20 years from now or a heart attack tomorrow, we're all gonna die. You gotta deal with that. But on to happier. Actually, you know what? That is a happy thought. Eternal salvation. It doesn't get better than that. But moving on to a different topic, because you mentioned, like, it does seem like we've gone from one catastrophe to the other. There is, though, there's an overlapping theme between COVID and this new Russia thing, right? It's the fact that our leaders have lied to us for so long that they've created these situations. These are all manufactured situations. Again, I'm not saying that I know for a fact that Russia was never going to do this. What I do know is it does seem like our leadership has gone out of its way to create the situation. Not just today, not just Joe Biden, all of them. They all created the situation. In the same way that they helped, in the same way that our flawed foreign policy created the Taliban and then created Al-Qaeda, we created the situation. Our leaders lie us into wars that they are not willing to do the right thing by. Look, I do believe that we do need a military. I'm a pretty staunch conservative. I believe in strong military power. I believe fundamentally that the world is run by the aggressive use of force, whether you like it or not. I don't like the fact that that's the way it is, but that is the way it is, because the world is evil. What I do believe, though, is I think if we're going to be killing people, if we're going to be sending our sons, our daughters into combat, it better darn well be for a good reason. And I don't necessarily always mean, well, we have to have good guys and bad guys. I'm sorry, guys. That's too simplistic a worldview. Right? Good guys, bad guys, that's not a thing. Practicality matters. If we're going to go to war, go to war. End a threat. If we're going to do something because we need to maintain a shipping line, then let's make it about that. We don't need to lie about it. We don't need to gussy up and say, look, here's why it is. Let's do practicality. Let's do rationality. That's what I want. The problem is our leadership isn't doing that. It's getting us engaged in things we really don't have any reason to get engaged in. Or if we should be engaged, we really should be doing a lot more than we are, so we can finish the job quickly, do what we got to do to create a new. And a lot of people are like, oh, we can't be colonialists or imperialists. Well, then you got to figure it out, man. You can't do this half measure crap. Look, I'm sorry, it's ugly, but you know what? Rome. We don't necessarily have to go and conquer somebody, but if you're going to have to go in, you might as well do what we did with Japan. You go in, you basically, you either be an empire or don't. If you want to be an isolationist, be an isolationist. If you want to be the world police, then be an empire and actually make people do right. But what we're doing is we're doing these half measure things, which is like, which is what Rome did at its end. The reason the barbarians were able to approach and burn the gates of Constantinople was because Rome had armed and trained them. All of those, the Visigoths and all of these other, barbarian hordes were the former vassals of Rome. Those were the soldiers that Rome sent out to do Rome's bidding when the Romans couldn't be bothered to deal with it anymore. Sounds an awful lot like the Taliban to me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that.
We couldn't be bothered to fight Russia and Afghanistan, so it's like, hey, Mujahideen, all of you radical fundamentalist Muslims, would you like a lot of ammunition and training on how to fight wars? And particularly guerrilla warfare? Great, let's do that. And then, once they drove Russia out, we're like, all right, well, let's just leave all those weapons and tactical training in your hands. Let's certainly not try and fix Afghanistan. Let's not build schools and hospitals. Let's not win the hearts and minds of the people in Afghanistan. Let's not send some people over to govern y'all for a few years and make certain that these radicals, these Islamic nut jobs, don't become the ones in power. But we didn't do that, and now the Taliban exists. And I'm sorry, the world is much worse off with the Taliban than it would have been with Russia in Afghanistan. Again, I'm over here saying, look, Russia is the USSR was a terrible thing. The Holodomor was absolutely terrible, but the Taliban ain't better than the Russians. The Taliban was way worse than the Russians. So it goes back to, it seems like our leadership has gone out of its way to really create a really bad situation for us. And for the world in general. It lied to us about COVID and used it as a way to get us, to basically just... we've seen the largest transfer of wealth from the middle class to the upper class in the history of the planet. I mean, literally, that's what we just saw. That was all done by the government. The government picked it, it chose it, it made it happen. Again, there is, the fact that we're going from one catastrophe to another catastrophe, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's some dark cabal with a table with, all these people standing around it twirling mustaches, right? They're not wearing elaborate supervillain clothes with, sitting in this darkened room with like a small imp in the middle of the table or something where they're conjuring Satan. I'm not saying anything like that. What I am saying, though, is evil people, greedy people, selfish people tend to be the ones who get into power. Again, for all the spiritual reasons we talked about earlier, those fallen entities don't want good people in charge. It's a lot easier to deal with someone you already own. This is why the rich and powerful in the world tend to be the most corrupt. That's why they got the power in the first place, particularly the powerful. They're simply doing what their masters want. Our leadership is doing what their masters, the demons, want them to do. That's why. It's like, it doesn't need to be a big conspiracy. It just needs to be, we just have to recognize that the spiritual world exists. It is planned, just not by people. The people are following orders. They're just doing what they're influenced to do. It's Satan who's in control, but we're not even bothering with Satan. We're just, well, I guess we better make certain our 501c3 paperwork is correct. We don't want to lose those tax breaks. Let's certainly not pray about things, about the government. Let's just, let's go make certain you vote the right way because it's the most important election in your time. Every election I have lived through in 41 years has been the most important election that has ever happened.
Yeah. It's true.
At some point, I'm going to start doubting it. That's all I'm saying. I'm like, so either you're lying to me about this and that this is all a bunch of crap.
Right.
And you're doing this to manipulate me, or we have a remarkably fragile system that really is not robust at all. And the worst part is it could be both.
Yeah, I could.
Our system could be remarkably fragile, but it's also, we're being lied to, because it's like the bugs. It's like the cockroaches. They distract us with the cockroaches. The real battle are the bugs in space. But they're like, here, focus on these things. Support this thing you don't understand. You don't actually know the truth about. Believe what they are telling you on the television, please. And if you question anyone, it's because you love Vladimir Putin and you hate the West and you want to murder your grandmother.
Yikes. Yeah, it really is what it is. Well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's all unfortunate. It's all smoke and mirrors. But as we kind of wind down here, let's go ahead and let everybody know where they can actually find you teaching that you did.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube channel, and then where they can also buy the books as well.
So yeah, S.I.R.U papers. So actually, you can actually link to everything: my books, my website, on my YouTube channel, on my website. It's S.I.R.U.papers.com. S-I-R-U papers, like paper. Yep. .com. And so you have links to. I'm every Monday on Texas Front Porch. I actually do have a new show coming up next Wednesday. It's called Jason McLean Questions Everything. It's sort of a panel discussion. We'll have mostly the people from the channel on, but we'll have guests from time to time. Yeah, S.I.R.U.papers.com. It has a link to my Bible study and to S.I.R.U Papers, the YouTube channel, which does. We do have stuff on cryptozoology, ancient astronaut theory, ufology, and prophecy, right? Because again, my expertise is like at the beginning of the book and then the end of the book,
right?
So yeah, again, you're gonna find if you want to find out if there's a Christian interpretation for UFOs, what's being seen, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, that kind of thing. That channel's for you. If you want to get a better look at prophecy, again, that channel's for you. Again, the links to all my books can be found on that webpage as well. Or you can go to Amazon and type me. You'll find me. Unfortunately, there's a few other Jason McLeans running around, so I do recommend going to S.I.R.U.papers.com and just be like, hey, there's your author's page. You're gonna find books on. Again, you'll find some individual books on the 2017 alignment. I was, by the way, the only one saying it was not the rapture. You'll find books on, again, Lucifer is not Satan, right? You will find it's. I won't spoil that. You'll find the tetralogy, which is a broader idea. But all those teachings are also going to go on S.I.R.U papers, so you don't have to buy those books. If you're like, well, maybe I don't have time to read. Great, we'll be doing videos on them, right? I'm not trying to make money off this stuff. I just want to make sure the teaching goes out. So over the coming months, we're going to do a lot more on prophecy. And so we're going to cover all of those topics as well. Right. But yeah, S.I.R.U.papers.com. It has links to everything. One-stop shop for you.
Yeah. And it's definitely, if people want to kind of figure out how UFOs and all those crazy things actually prove that the Bible is true, you can actually buy that book as well, like I did. How UFOs and Bigfoot Prove the Bible is True by Jason McLean, which is a great book as well. I actually have mine sitting over here somewhere on the desk. But yeah, we'll have the links to the YouTube channel and everything down below for everybody, as well as the website and all the books as well. So that way everybody can go ahead and stop on in. So that way you guys, if you're kind of wanting to hear more from Jason and you're kind of upset that you only get to hear him when he comes on this show, you guys can actually go over to his show. You can buy all his stuff as well. So You won't have to. You can actually skip the middleman, just get to him right away. So that'll be good for you guys. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming back on as well. I'll let you get out and let you get your weekend started as well. Friday night. So
I appreciate that. Actually, I'm working all weekend. I actually have to go down to Glenrose tomorrow morning. I'll be with some friends at the Creation Evidence Museum tomorrow. Maybe do a little talking, a little teaching with some other friends. So it's a busy weekend. So I'm happy to come in and hang with you for a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. Absolutely. Yeah, everybody. So I'll have the links and everything down in the show notes afterwards, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. And as always, you guys are catching us on YouTube, and you aren't already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button as well. Make sure you guys share the link with someone you know. Maybe you love what we do here as well, and you want to go ahead and spread that out to somebody else. Maybe your mom, or you're just like your brother or somebody. Maybe they'd be interested. That'll really help us grow as well. If you guys want to catch us on the go, you can catch us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, as well as iHeartRadio at Truth Defender Podcast. Link to all our social medias down below: Twitter, Getter, Instagram, Facebook, and Rumble. And as always, you can shoot us an email at thetruthDefenders1776@gmail.com. Everybody, please stay safe out there. I hope everybody enjoys their weekend, and you guys get some rest and get ready for the week ahead. Yeah, everybody enjoy. Stay safe out there. Stay blessed, and most of all, stay frosty.
Perfect.